Well, the most significant impact that UllaSearing has had on Sarasota is definitely her generosity and her philanthropy, especially to the arts here, because you name the major arts organizations and she's been a major benefactor. Obviously, she understands the criticality of the arts and what it does for human beings and for human spirit, and she loves also the fact that those who are younger, the students, are engaged in the arts. So she recognizes the importance of it to our culture, to our society, and to the education of our children.
It's unusual to have one person do so much for the arts in one community. She's worked with the ballet, she's done donations for the opera, all the theaters in town, and of course the Ringley Museum. So I would say she really has been one of the most important aspects of making this such a community of the arts. John Ringling started it and she's expanded on that, definitely.
I think Ulla is the grande dame of Sarasota. Wherever she goes with grace and dignity, and we're very fortunate to have her in our community, and Peter and I are very fortunate to call her our friend.
UllaSearing was born Ulla Margareta Rosengren on October 21, 1912 in Gothenburg, Sweden. Her parents were from Stockholm and were not yet married at the time of her conception. Due to the pressures of Swedish society in 1912, her mother decided it best to give up her baby for adoption. A successful doctor, Herman Rosengren, who lived in Gothenburg, agreed to adopt the baby.
He said, if it's a little boy, I will adopt them. But of course I was not a little boy, so he adopted me anyway.
Her adoptive father was unmarried and the head of a large hospital specializing in tuberculosis. Well respected in the community, he was a strict taskmaster at home.
He was a very serious man. He worked very hard and he was not a very happy man. I was scared of him because he had a bad temper, because he had all kinds of problems with the hospital. This was during the war, and there was not money coming in for this and that and so on, whatever. So he had a lot of problems.
In her early years, she lived a sheltered life, raised by nurses and house servants. With few playmates, she was a very shy young girl. While her father was quite cruel, his sister, her Aunt Esther, and his younger brother were very kind.
The youngest brother of my father, he was an officer in the army, very nice, and he was visiting us. I was then about 4 or 5. And he was nice. He sat down and played with me, which my father never did, and it was crosswords. And I was pretty good. And so we had fun. And he was nice. He has his own children at home, of course. So he was used to children. My father was, except in the hospital, of course. So they were crazy about him. So he came home, and we were sitting there having a good time. So he said, "Oh, we have had such a nice time, and she is so smart, and we have done this, that." I said, "Oh, really?" So and I sort of sank, and he saw it. And he said to my father, "If you treat her like this, she's going to hate you." Well, I avoided him as much as I could.
From the time she was 3 years old, she was tutored in English, German, and French. At 7, she was sent to the finest co-ed private school in town. Having not ever had playmates, it was a strange experience for Ulla.
And they were very nice, but I was not used to them, and they thought I was strange, I never played with anybody, I never thrown a ball, they were nice. They understood I had my problems. And I was very shy, of course. Of course, I was not used to this. They were all new to me.
During her school years, she had little contact outside of her school with her friends.
I lived outside town, so I bicycled back and forth. I never saw them after school. When they got together, and so on. And all the evening, never. Unless there was a special place at the time, and then I was invited. All these people in my hospital were tuberculosis. There was a home where some of these kids my father had organized in the country. And we worked there. And I worked there, and this was the Lucia. Lucia is just before Christmas. You have the crown, and candles.
At home, her father had frequent guests. One such guest made an immediate impression upon young Ulla.
One guest was my mother with her husband, and later on with her second husband. They came for about 5, for a few weeks there somewhere. And I admired her very much. I, of course, didn't know she was my mother. I always wondered who my mother was. And she was glamorous, and there was perfume, and there was elegant dresses, and something that I didn't see in my home, because there was nobody like that.
While Ulla knew from the whispers of the house staff that this was her mother, no one officially told her until she was about 12 years old, at which time her adoptive father insisted that she be told the truth.
So we went for a walk, and she said, I hope you can forgive me, and so on. And I didn't say, oh, my dear, I've known it for years. I didn't say anything. And she said, can you forgive me? I said, and that was that. So they thought, now I knew. I've known all the time with all the gossip around.
At the time, her mother was living with her second husband in a country estate and invited Ulla for a New Year visit to meet her younger brothers.
And I, of course, was very impressed with her, so I was always, admiring her. And then the neighbors came for parties and so on. And they said, who is this girl? Oh, she is a friend of the boys and the doctor so-and-so in Gothenburg. Aha.
During the visit, she and her brothers rode horses, and Ulla thoroughly enjoyed herself. She returned home feeling happy, filled with admiration for her mother. Shortly after she arrived home, a letter came for her father from her mother.
Then she wrote home and said that she could never have me again because I hadn't behaved well. Well, now I have been to his families, one in Skåne, his brother's families, and they were my cousins, adopted cousins. They were my friends, and I was welcome there, and nobody ever complained of me as a guest, except my mother, because she didn't want me to come again because she was afraid. And of course he didn't understand that, and I didn't understand it.
Ulla graduated from private school when she was 17. Her father had set up a facility for the children who had been treated in his hospital to go after they got better, similar to a convalescent home and located in the country. It was a place where the children went before they could return home. As a young woman, Ulla helped care for about 10 children at the home. However, her father, who had given so much to the health of others, was growing ill. She had to discontinue her work with the children as, much to her surprise, her father insisted she come home and care for him. She was the only one he would permit to do so.
My father got sick, so I had to leave. They were all very sweet, and they made all the beds themselves and do anything to help me, so I could leave. They were very nice.
Shortly after that, in 1929, her father died, and then, on October 24, 1929, United States stocks plummeted on Wall Street, with markets around the world soon to follow. At 18 years of age, Ulla was left on her own. Most of her father's estate was sold to cover stock losses. One of her father's brothers took much of what was left.
So I didn't get much. I got some money, but not very much.
With help from her father's younger brother, she was able to make contact with her biological grandmother. Ulla went to visit her in England.
I was pretty lost. My father had died, and I was alone. And she wasn't special. She was not a warm person at all. But she was very suspicious because my mother had wasted everything. And I had not grown up with my mother, so I had nothing to waste anyway. So, but she was suspicious.
Ulla returned to Sweden, where she worked in Gothenburg for friends of her father's who owned an insurance agency. Over the next few years, she traveled between Sweden and England. She was only able to stay in England 6 months at a time and would spend those days with her grandmother. In Sweden, she moved to Stockholm, where she had friends and relatives. She took classes in dressmaking at a fashion institute and also went to secretarial school.
You learn to be a secretary, in languages and so on, shorthand and typing and stuff. So I did that.
During World War II, she obtained a position with the American Embassy. At the end of the war, Ulla had the option of going to England or the United States. She struggled with the decision, but chose the United States, New York City.
I had also relatives there I never met. I stayed with, and I got a job right away.
She soon got an apartment with friends and eventually rented her own walk-up in a nice neighborhood in the city. She worked at a variety of positions, including the U.S. Embassy and the Swedish consulate.
I was a friend of the Consul General and his wife, and I was a friend of the ambassador's wife in Washington. So I visited there sometimes.
Ulla loved the United States, and on June 20th, 1955, she became a United States citizen. One evening, not long after, she was attending a cocktail party and met a gentleman named Arthur Searing, who was financial vice president at AIG.
So we started seeing each other. But he had a wife who was Gaga.
Arthur's wife was very ill and under institutional care. While Ulla and Arthur fell in love, Arthur was committed to caring for his wife. Ulla and Arthur dated for several years. After the death of his wife, they married on September 12, 1963.
His name was Searing, and then there was Searing town. They were Huguenots, so they came and settled in Searing town. And there was an old church, Searing town church, and there was a gravestone of his family and so on. And that's why we were married, and that was very nice. He worked very hard, and he was a brilliant man.
We had a very warm relationship. They both liked to travel. Arthur was very successful in the insurance business, CV Star Group, which owns quite a few big insurance companies, and he was a very astute, should I say, stock picker on his own.
They were an active couple who belonged to many clubs and met many interesting people. Through Arthur's work in New York, Ulla met and entertained many of the world's leading investment professionals.
And then, of course, we had friends, Chinese friends in New York, very good friends. He was a banker, Chinese, because they were, Mr. Starr, who started AIG, he started in China. So he had a lot of Chinese friends. And this was a brother to Madame Chiang Kai-shek. And he was a banker, retired, and lived in New York, and we often had dinner with them, and my husband helped him with investments and so on.
The couple maintained an apartment in Manhattan, but also had an estate in Southampton. Ulla enjoyed the climate and the social activities. She was a swimmer, a boater, and was an avid golfer.
All she wanted is to win a trophy. So one day she was playing in a tournament. This was probably in the late 70s at the National Golf Links of America, which is out in Southampton. They came to a crucial hole, which was a par 3 hole. I think it was the 11th hole, I can remember. And I didn't see this, but I certainly heard about it, that she had a chance to get the low handicap prize on this par 3 hole. And she didn't like that hole because you had to drive it over a little pond. And if you did that all right, there's a lot of traps that are around the green. So it was a tough par 3. Well, by gosh, she got up there and whacked it, and it hit on the green, and my golly, rolled in the cup. She had a hole-in-one and won the trophy.
I was just lucky when I won. So it was an English girl. I had invited 3 girls, and they were better than I. But she said, hold everything. Because I had a fantastic shot that settled everything. And so we won. And my partner, she got a little table, came home to my husband. He said, well, now I can retire.
In 1973, Ulla and Arthur had friends who were moving to Longboat Key, Florida to retire. They invited them along to take a look.
I hated to leave New York. I hated it. But we had friends who said, this is where we are going to retire. Where is that? Sarasota, where is that? That's in Florida. Oh. And so they were buying a lot there. Not a skyscraper, but you know, a big. That was only a hole in the ground then. But they had bought an apartment in it. So we went down to look. That was in Longboat Key. And there weren't not many buildings at that time. And so my husband just bought an apartment, and that was that.
In retirement, they traveled the world, including a 1980 world cruise aboard the luxury cruise liner, the Queen Elizabeth II. During these trips, Ulla would visit the great art museums of the world, where her love and knowledge of art grew. She was also able to return to her homeland and introduce Arthur to her family.
He was so impressed by my family there. One was a top general who was a friend of the king. They gave a dinner for us and so on. And he was very impressed because they always think if this girl who came over, they come from nothing, you know. But she did understand the education and the family and so on. So he was very impressed.
They spent the winters in Florida and the summers in Southampton.
We played golf, and of course I'm a very good swimmer, so we swam a lot. And that I like, but not year round, you know. I like it not year round. But anyway, that's the way we lived.
In Sarasota, the couple began to enjoy the cultural aspects of the community.
We had a little theater, you know, the little one. And then we had half a year we had music, and half a year we had theater. And, during the seasons, you know. So that was very nice. And we were, of course, not so many people here then.
On March 19, 1983, Arthur died of a sudden heart attack. At first, Ulla was lost.
I didn't know what to do. I moved into town from Longboat because I didn't want to be there alone. I lived there and I played golf and I read and I studied and, you know.
She married twice after that, but both marriages were brief, ending in divorce. Arthur had left her financially sound. She turned to her old friend, Bruce Leib, to help her with her finances.
I have a very good friend who was a friend of my husband who is handling my money, and he is the smartest thing you can. I mean, he was trained by my husband, very smart and a very good friend, and he's handling it.
When she's here in Sarasota, I come down once a month and we go over her various accounts. We've had some good times and we've had some bad times, but all in all, the relationship, I think, has been a very positive one, and I've enjoyed working with her, and I think she enjoys having me and trusts me, and we kind of talk the same language, so we understand each other.
In Sarasota, Ulla became involved with the arts community. The love of beauty had always inspired her. With no children to leave her fortune, she began to establish a program to enhance the arts.
Well, that's a normal thing to do. That's a normal thing to do. That's what we always did in Sweden.
In November 2006, the Southwest Florida chapter of the Association of Fundraising Professionals recognized her as Philanthropist of the Year. Organizations to benefit from her endowments have included the Ringling Museum, the Sarasota Ballet, Circus Sarasota, New College Foundation, Sarasota Season of Sculpture, and the Ringling College of Art and Design. In 2006, the Oslo Theater honored her 4 decades of support and her $2 million bequest to the Oslo by casting her handprints in concrete and placing them in the Mertz Legacy Garden at the entrance of the theater. Her generosity has served to fund a variety of projects, including a wing at the John and Mabel Ringling Museum of Art, new dormitories for New College, a student center at Ringling School of Art and Design, as well as scholarships to students of both colleges.
With respect to Ringling College, she's given substantial support for our students and for scholarships for our students, and we have actually named one of our largest buildings that we ever built, the UllaSearing Student Center, because of her wonderful generosity. One of the things that UllaSearing has really enjoyed with Ringling College of Art and Design is our students. It's really interesting to watch her interact with them and to talk with them, because she has so many experiences, and this is especially true with our international students. We have a number of international students, and some are from Sweden, and so she's had these great interactions with these students that, I mean, they're speaking in Swedish, and it's going back and forth, and you can just see the liveliness in her, and she was able to really convey some meaningful stories to so many of our students about all the things that she's experienced in life.
Ulla has touched every organisation here. I mean, she's a legend and in her own right, and we're just very fortunate that Ulla was very generous in sort of pledging a large amount of money in order that the future of the Sarasota Ballet can be secured. But it's more than that, really, because I love the way that she's so interested in everything, but she loves to meet the dancers. She loves being around all the young dancers, and she likes to see how they progress, and just, she's just a very, important part of our lives there.
Ulla has made a great impact on Circus Sarasota. She's given us the opportunity to begin the capital campaign to acquire the big top, the equipment, the lighting, and it's been, her generosity is overwhelming.
I know Ulla personally, and I'm very fortunate to be able to call her a friend, and I look forward to seeing her and getting together with her, and her kindness and her special spirit that she has, and I hope to grow up and be like her one day.
We always look forward to seeing Ulla at our gala performances and our regular circus performances. It's great to see her watching the show, and I know she enjoys coming to Circus Sarasota.
She loves the circus, and that's wonderful.
UllaSearing has been probably the most important benefactor of the Ringling Museum as far as giving us an opportunity to expand the actual building itself. She gave 30,000 square feet of space, which houses several galleries and also storage for the collection. With this new space, he's able to offer things like contemporary exhibitions that are traveling. This is something that is really a first for the Ringling, because we have 21 galleries of master paintings and really no space for exhibitions of this type. So it's made a huge impact for the community. It's made an incredible impact for the audience that comes to Ringling Museum, because now we can attract a great deal of young people instead of the master painting type person.
She's so appreciative. If we just, we gave a small birthday party for her, and she took time to look at everything, and she was really, left such a touching message how grateful she was and how she thanked us.
I am her escort for many parties. I've taken her to the opera, the ballet, and always to the exhibitions at the museum. And it's interesting when you give her a tour of an exhibition, she reads every label. She's very intelligent. And it's very interesting that someone that's that involved in the arts actually takes the time and an opening to actually drink in everything that's actually happening. It's really wonderful.
Each Christmas Eve, I dress up as an elf, and along with Chuck Sidlow, our professional clown, we deliver presents to certain people, and it's a great honor and privilege to deliver the presents, especially to Ulla, and we have a great time together.
She is always dressed to perfection, and her manners are impeccable. And so when you're around her, it actually brings you up in terms of the way that you behave around her as well, because she is such a wonderful person. I just can't believe how incredibly active she is and alive at this age, and how, she does more than I think I can do in terms of going out to different events and meeting different people. It's just amazing, and I love her energy, and I love her smile. She's got a real interesting sense of humor about her that is absolutely delightful.
She's been very generous during her life here and after she leaves us to different charities and educational, and the Ringling Museum and the ballet, the opera, well, you name it, the Aslo, the theater, you name it, and she's been an active contributor.
But all these people are getting it when I'm dead. And that's what they're waiting for. Counting on, I suppose.
As UllaSearing approaches the century mark, she continues to be active and involved in our community. We asked her for her advice for those who follow.
Keep on studying and be with what's going on in the world, and do your best.